Welcome to Delve into the Void. This week, I'm here with
Jeremy Holder
and
Josh Holderbaum.
This week, we're going to the long-awaited discussion of, as you can see, Batman versus Superman. This movie has critics divided. Actually, critics don't really care for the movie. Fans divided. It's going all over the place. Let's start with you, Jeremy. What was your thoughts going into the movie? Your hopes, concerns when they first announced it?
When they first announced it, I thought about time. I know that many of us, ever since that little teaser trailer, I Am Legend, has been definitely looking forward to seeing Batman vs. Superman. As things progress, I don't know, the whole campaign of it, I was really getting worried the more and more as time progressed. Because we know that we saw the Man of Steel, which is Superman's origin story, but now that they start showing footage of Batman versus Superman, the whole thing going through my mind is like, wait a minute. This is too soon. You know, we needed them to come together first, Justice League first, go through the whole thing, because if you look at the source material where this is all pulled from, such as one of the big factors is The Dark Knight Returns Part 1, Part 2, you'll see that you got a really older Batman who already went through all this, and the Justice League has already been formed and deformed. So you have a really twisted timeline going on.
I wasn't as worried about Batman making his debut in a Batman vs. Superman one. It's when they started mentioning a whole ton of other characters that were going to be introduced, like they were going to introduce Wonder Woman, there was Aquaman, I heard talk of Green Lantern at one point, which didn't happen in the film, but I was like, holy cow, that's a lot to work in. And I was really afraid it was going to be like, that end movie cameo after the credits. Say, hey, 5 seconds, here we are, here's the Justice League now.
When you first saw the critics kind of derailing the movie, you were kind of almost turned off, like, I don't want to watch it. I've lost some of its luster. And then you watch the movie.
This movie may be titled Batman vs. Superman, but it certainly made a critics versus fans situation going on. Because when I first saw the critic reviews, I really thought, like, wow, this movie, to be universally panned by the critics so much. I'm thinking the movie only started walking in, and I'm thinking probably only deserved like a 3 or a 4. But knowing the source material, like if you go ahead and before you watch the movie, watch Superman Doomsday, Batman Returns Part 1, Part 2, and so you can understand some of those amazing, perfectly handled dream sequences, Justice League War, so you can understand the cameos from that, then you could see where all these like little ingredients of this smoothie came in and start blending together. Yes, I agree. After I seen it and after I watched it, I do feel like some of the elements was rushed to catch steam up with the franchise, but it still worked well. One thing the critics was right about, there was lots of brooding and, dark thinking, because you have one hero who is at the beginning of his time who just got done having a very big turn in his life. He just got done killing somebody for the first time, who isn't just somebody, the last sole survivor of his, race. And he's being shunned by the people who he's trying to protect. Then you have one guy who is pretty much towards the end of his, span. And he's already seen the dark side of humanity, where you see the Robin suit in the trailer where the Joker has already killed one of the Robins. So he's already experienced the dark side, while he is just now experiencing the dark side. Because of his experience, he don't trust Superman. So in a way, I was wondering how can they make this fit. It does fit. It fits not only with using the source materials I mentioned, but it also fits using Man of Steel as a good anchor point as well. So it does a job blending these movies together and taking the fact that this is a sequel to Man of Steel and using it as a springboard to push the future franchises.
I watched it with my parents, and being my parents, they know probably more about comic books than most parents, my mom especially. My dad was more taken by the fact that Debbie Stabenow and Carl Leahy were both in the film as, senators. But they enjoyed it, anyway, even not knowing that much about it. I don't pay much attention to critics because I can't think of the last comic book movie to be praised by critics. I can't think of any, but what worried me more was when I got on Facebook a few weeks after it came out, and some of my friends who are also into comic books said, "Oh, this movie really sucks." And I started to think, "Oh, geez, maybe this isn't that great." And then finally I saw it, and honestly, I don't really know where all the criticism came from. I mean, it's dark, it's different, but I mean, it's like Man of Steel. It's in that same vein. If they made it really happy, I mean, if they did it like the Avengers or something, where it's a very different style, it wouldn't exactly make sense following up Man of Steel.
When I saw the trailers, I really was liking it, and then the reviews came in. Whoa, negative, 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 not da, and had me worried for a minute. But I still went and watched it opening night. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I went to see it a second time, and I had my mom and I had my nieces with me, and they liked it. My mom isn't a big DC Comics fan, but she knew enough about the movies and the major characters to enjoy it. When it came down to it, it set up a good foundation for the DC Universe, and it was kind of, they had to do this. And there's a couple reasons why.
I would say this. Once again, like you, I also took my aunt, and I actually had some other people there of literally all ages. We're talking about from young to up there. Those who did not know the source material, who don't know nothing, I'm not even going to say the source material, who don't really even know too much about DC Universe. They know the movie stuff. They know about Batman. They know about Superman because they've seen it. But some people are familiar with Wonder Woman because of her show. But other than that, you're really going out of the realm. So those cameos, they just look like, who was that? What's going on? And when you had those dream sequences, they was just completely fused. But when it came to the action, when it came to the plots that they can see happening from Man of Steel, most of them was actually able to not only understand what was going on, but to enjoy it. So you don't need to know the source material. This still was a legitimately good movie on its own right.
Let us just hit the hot topic right now. Ben Affleck, Batman, Bruce Wayne. I felt, like they say, a tremor in the force. I felt earthquakes going when that was announced. Affleck. And I think the internet almost broke down because of all the backlash.
I was kind of disappointed that they didn't go with a more unknown. I mean, in comparison to like Henry Cavill or Gal Gadot as a less household name, I kind of wish they had. I mean, not that Christian Bale was that much of an unknown, but at least it helped to elevate him, and then we get someone who's already kind of on the top. I will say I've seen Daredevil. It's like seriously my least favorite comic book film of all time. I would seriously, jam something into my brain and mess it around a little just to get that out of my brain. But I liked him as Batman. It was good. It was I know he's an actor and I know he's capable of doing stuff, and I know Daredevil wasn't entirely his fault.
What scene in the movie did you say he's got the part nailed down? He's got the character.
It was. I think it was some of the Batcave scenes. In the Batcave scenes where he's talking to Alfred, he's discussing his reasons for going after Superman. It jived with me in terms of him being Bruce Wayne.
You know my opinions before going in there. I was against it, but skipping back a little bit, I think that he did awesome in Daredevil. I just think that the movie was bad, but he, as an actor, he is the Daredevil character. I thought he was good as Daredevil. And now I saw him in Batman, and I must say, every single scene he was in, to me, was absolutely perfect. I think he nailed Batman in his own unique way perfectly. He felt like an older, seasoned, more smarter but hurt Batman. Man, Ben Affleck, he's a great actor. That's all I can say. He did a good job. His scenes were perfect. The fighting scenes were brutal. In fact, one thing about it, I've seen more of my friends have actually had backlash, not of the fact of him being as Batman, because it was like, hey, he did a good job. It's the fact that Batman was killing people. That was the part that was giving him backlash. But again, he's had years under his belt, and he's just like, if I put you in jail, you're just gonna come out. I mean, if anything, he was more like the Punisher almost, in a sense. You know, the new Daredevil, where he was just there. He was just like, we're gonna go ahead, and I need to get straight from point A to point B. I'm not gonna slow down getting there, trying to, you know, make sure you live through this. You chose this path. You know Batman's coming around. He's branding people, you know. And like you said, the scenes where he was in the Batcave was amazing. Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, and Lex Luthor to have that little conversation. And, you know, you've seen most of that conversation in the trailers, but it still felt good. I think he sold Batman, and I definitely now, before, I did not look forward to more Batman, as Batman, but now I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I wasn't worried when we heard Ben Affleck was going to be Batman. I actually felt that he was going to nail the role. And then when he actually nailed the role, boom. When you see him go in beast mode in that training montage, that was Batman to me. He had that mask, he was big. He reminded me of the Batman, the animated series, where he was big and bulky and he was thick. And he captured everything to me.